Hey guys, welcome to another video. Today, I'm going to talk about my incredibly difficult apartment hunt in New York City. It's going to be a very transparent video. Price, location, square footage, everything. For the past 2 years, I've been living in Herald Square, the second busiest intersection in New York after Times Square. The studio I was living in was 459 square feet, priced at $3,500. It's in the center of Manhattan and 2 blocks from K-Town, which made going home after a night out super easy. But after 2 years of living there, I decided it was time to go. It wasn't much of a choice, really. I mean, do you see how expensive the price tag is? So, using StreetEasy and Zillow, I began my search in Manhattan. My first tour in Manhattan was in Hell's Kitchen, 45th Street and 9th Avenue. It was a $2,400 studio, but with half a month free for a 12-month lease, the effective rent was $2,300. The location was perfect. I could walk to my office in Hudson Yards in just 15 minutes. However, this apartment made me realize the importance of in-person visits. This place had looked really nice and super clean on StreetEasy, almost to the point where I was certain I had found my new home. But touring the apartment was a completely different story. Maybe it was the lack of lights, but the apartment was sketchy. I also quickly noticed how many bugs there were. Opening the fridge, I noticed flies and little insects, as well as liquid that pooled inside the fridge. Not a good first impression.
Will the fridge be replaced?
Yeah, he has to take care of all that.
Okay,
Right in there. He has to.
I see.
The washroom wasn't great either, differing greatly from the photos I had seen online. Now, I know listing photos are obviously going to be misleading because realtors use wide-angle lenses and Photoshop to make the apartments appear larger or prettier than they really are, which is why I learned to create a smaller expectation of apartments when visiting in person. But nothing could have prepared me for this. This was the biggest catfish in my entire hunt. Other apartments I toured afterwards were not this different. This was by far the worst one. Furthermore, while there was laundry in the basement, the overall vibe was so sketchy and I could see cockroaches crawling here and there. So I thought, no way, I wouldn't want to do my laundry here. So I crossed the apartment off my list. I don't really have high standards. Not wanting insects in your home is just basic sanitation, but I just know some native New Yorker in the comments is gonna be like, it's New York, suck it up. I mean, I know Manhattan's old and cockroaches are everywhere. Even my Herald Square apartment had a few here and there. But the difference is how often they show up. And this one seemed like they would show up every day. My next tour was in the Upper East Side, 88th Street between 1st and 2nd Avenue. It was a $2,261 studio, and it would be a 30 to 40 minute commute to the office. I don't know the square footage because for some reason, very few realtors list that information. It seems like a very small apartment, but I feel like it looks smaller than it is because the tenant had a lot of big furniture. As someone who doesn't have much furniture, I thought this amount of space was fine. The kitchen wasn't the biggest thing in the world, but it seemed manageable, and although I couldn't enter the washroom, it seemed big enough. There was no laundry in the building, so I visited a nearby laundromat to see its condition. Originally, one of my biggest deal breakers was not having laundry in the building because I did not want to haul my laundry basket through the streets every week. But one of my friends gave me some good advice. It might be better to live in a cheaper place without laundry in the building. This is because laundry in the building tends to be poorly maintained, which management can get away with because tenants are going to use it anyway, since they paid for it. However, external laundromats are businesses at their core. They need to care about the condition and maintenance of their laundromats because otherwise they're gonna get bad reviews. This is ultimately why I decided to drop the laundry requirement, although it took a lot of time. Talk about character development. Although I wasn't opposed to living in this apartment, I did see just how much competition there was. People had lined up in front of the building before the open house, so I knew even if I applied, there'd be a low chance of getting it, so I didn't even try. For those of you saying I should have applied anyway, just in case, many apartments actually have application fees, so it's not worth spending that money if you know there's a low chance of scoring it. I learned that the hardest part about apartment hunting isn't actually finding apartments in your price range that meet your standards, it's hearing back from them. There were countless dead ends when reaching out to realtors and brokers, which is why I inevitably had to lower my standards so I could reach out to more places.
I get ignored by realtors from like 10 different places. So last night I was so fed up that I applied to like 10 more apartments. 4 of them literally got back to me this morning and they want to schedule a visit today. All today.
By the way, I don't know why I chose such a high price cap for my search. Although this was over $1,000 lower than my Herald Square apartment, it's still too high. Let me explain. One thing you should know throughout this video is that New York strongly recommends, or sometimes mandates, that your annual salary be 40 times your monthly rent. So for example, if I were to continue living in my Herald Square apartment, I would have to make $3,500 times 40, which is this much. And I'm most definitely not making this much. It is still possible to live in an apartment without meeting the 40 times requirement, but you'll need a guarantor, which is basically a family member or anyone who can pay the rent instead if you were to go bankrupt. The guarantor needs to make 80 times the monthly rent, which is perfectly fine, but turns out realtors don't like non-American guarantors. And since I'm not American, my only other option is third-party guarantors, which you need to pay a fee for. It's around a month's rent, so it's not exactly cheap either. After weeks of no luck in Manhattan, I decided to include one of my last resort areas, Harlem. To my surprise, there were a lot of nice apartments up in Harlem, luxury apartments that had insane monthly rent prices, but were offering 3 months free, bringing the effective monthly rent down to a reasonable amount within my budget. Although I didn't hear back from the luxury places, I did manage to score 2 tours. The first was in East Harlem on 108th Street between 1st and 2nd Avenue. I saw 2 studios there, priced at $1,900 and $2,000. The square footage wasn't listed publicly, and the best estimate I got from the realtor was 300 to 400 square feet. Although the location was subpar and the daily commute would be 45 minutes, it had everything I needed. The apartments were in good condition, one of the units had new appliances, and the space wasn't too small either. The lack of a broker fee was also a plus. If you don't know what a broker fee is, it's money you have to pay extra to the broker. Usually it's equal to a month's rent, but some crazy places charge you a month and a half or even 2 months. Here's a tip. If the broker fee exceeds a month's rent, just walk away. It's not worth it, because you also have to think about a month's worth of guarantor's fee, if that applies to you like me, and also a month's worth of security deposit. Ugh. This is too much to deal with. The laundry was in a separate neighboring building, which was in great condition to my surprise. So the only downside was the subprime location. Location is not just about how long the commute is. You also have to consider how convenient the surroundings are, most notably grocery stores and subway stations. And in that aspect, it wasn't that good. My last Harlem tour was on 128th Street and 5th Avenue. This was a $2,200 studio that was a 30 to 40 minute commute from my office. This apartment was even better than the last. First of all, it was in a prime location, only several blocks away from the 125th Street, 6th Avenue intersection, where you can find various fast food restaurants, Whole Foods, and a brand new Trader Joe's that had opened merely a couple of weeks before. I spent more than enough time looking through the apartment because the realtor left immediately to go elsewhere and told me to lock up the doors. The place was in the best condition of all the places I had seen up to this point, with a modern, sleek look.
But I love the fact that there are 2 air conditioners in this unit. I checked it. They both work. Wardrobe comes with the apartment because it doesn't have a built-in one. Very good. I like that it's deep, and the white bricks and the whole clean marble stone kind of thing. Really, I like it. Sink is great. Toilet's good. Tub is good.
The floors were a bit lacking, but manageable, I guess, no being barefoot. A downside was that it was on the first floor, and with the lack of window bars, very accessible from the street.
If someone genuinely wanted to, they could just like break in and enter. I don't know. Just saying, man. Just saying.
Other than that, the rooftop, gym, and laundry were quite nice.
This is the gym. Obviously, I didn't expect much, but even the floor is like gym material. It's like the shock-proof kind of thing. There's dumbbells, there are yoga mats. I genuinely don't think what more there is to ask for. Ah, very nice. How much is it? Oh, that's so cheap. Are you kidding? $2 full, cheaper than Herald Towers?
The biggest downside to the Harlem apartments was that it was in Harlem, which is not exactly the safest place. So much so, in fact, that all of my friends, including 2 native New Yorkers, advised against me living there.
Yeah, I was very surprised that you were there. I'm not gonna lie.
What? Harlem?
Yeah, I was born in Harlem. I lived there for the first 5 years of my life. Like, I only have really small memories there. And all the memories I have that I remember because I was young are really bad ones. Like, somebody got shot outside my apartment when I was a kid. My mom had to cover my eyes in my freaking stroller because there was blood everywhere, and I still saw it.
So I thought, maybe I should look at other places. Harlem would remain my last resort. With finding places in Manhattan being such a big struggle, I decided it was time to check out the other boroughs. And since one of my friends was from Astoria, Queens, and she was constantly talking about how great it was there, I decided to check it out.
So
That's crazy. This is a 2-bedroom. I would just take the 2-bedroom.
oh, something must be horribly wrong then. Public open house. No appointment needed. August 8th?
Mm-hmm.
That's today.
Shit, I'd go personally.
This is my first time in Astoria.
Holy shit. That's such a long line.
What the fuck? Note to self, if you're gonna check out a 2-bedroom apartment priced at $17.50, make sure to be there early. I waited for 15 minutes until I heard this.
I saw it. It looks like the pictures looks good, but I asked him how he's gonna choose. The criteria is gonna be who has the most money. He's gonna look at the financials and then choose like the top 5% or something.
After I heard that, I just left.
So, yeah.
You have to know when to pick your battles, and this was definitely not the one.
I'm not crazy. I'm looking for an apartment, but like, I'm not that desperate, you know?
I did find other places to tour though. I came across a 400 square foot studio priced at $2,300. This apartment was 40 to 50 minutes away from my office, so I was slowly starting to test out the limits of my daily commute.
Everything's stainless steel, full-size fridge, adjustable table, comes up and down, comes with a full-size bed frame that 2 tenants ago left it. I can keep it in here if you're interested, I can remove it if not. And that's my AC, so the AC comes with.
However, this apartment was a co-op, meaning that the whole process would be incredibly more complicated than it normally would be.
It takes 3 to 4 weeks for the application process. And you'd have to interview with the admissions committee. Because it's a co-op.
And there's no like broker's fee or anything like that.
No broker's fee because I'm the owner. I live down the hall.
Yep.
There's the application fee of $500, but I'll pay half.
Okay, alright.
The 3 to 4 week application process alone was enough not to pursue this apartment, because my Herald Square lease would have already expired by then, and I should have already moved in at that point. Otherwise, the apartment wasn't that bad. But I do want to go on a little rant here. That thing. Why do people rave over them? I just don't get it. In my opinion, exposed bricks look so messy because they're usually cracked and crumbling. I have never felt the urge to live in an apartment that looks half finished. I don't know, maybe it's just me. I also toured a $2,200 1-bedroom apartment that was pretty nice. This was the first apartment that I couldn't really find any problems with. The location was good, being a 35-minute commute to the office. The apartment was very clean with a lot of space, especially the closet. The kitchen was nice and had everything I needed. But one thing was that I couldn't find the air conditioner, because I'm pretty sure that's a heater, and that also looks like a heater. But then why would there be 2 heaters with no air conditioning? It didn't make sense, and I forgot to ask about that because the realtor was too busy on the phone. There was no laundry in the building, and there was a laundromat relatively nearby, so that was fine. I had finally found an official candidate, and I decided to make up my mind after seeing more apartments. I also visited Brooklyn just to see what it was like. This was a $2,200 1-bedroom apartment in Sunset Park, a 50-minute commute from the office. Interestingly, this was on the 4th floor of a walk-up building, meaning I would get some exercise just to get home. The apartment wasn't bad at all. It was definitely large enough to accommodate all of my furniture, given how it had a separate bedroom. I couldn't explore much because they were in the middle of repainting the entire unit. The general area wasn't bad, but I liked Astoria much better. Astoria seemed like a much friendlier place than Brooklyn. Still, I decided to keep this apartment as a potential candidate. I still wanted more options though. Since I found only a couple of good picks from 3 different boroughs, it was time to expand my search area even further.
Hey everyone, I'm walking the streets of LA.
Is this big enough?
How many square feet is this?
I see in here there's oh, wow.
Gotta keep on a lookout too, I guess. For the future.